This has Eagles fans very concerned, as with the carousel of blame going around the Philadelphia Eagles organization, there is one person in particular that deserves a lot of criticism with how the team has played in 2025. I'll break down this and all my thoughts surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles on Eagles Digest. What's going on, guys? Alex Brooks back here on Eagles Digest to break down what is going on in Philadelphia as the Eagles are getting ready for a matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday Night Football. So a week from today, the Eagles will take on the Los Angeles Chargers to try to get back on track and try to make a threat in the eventual playoffs. But before we get into this video, we're currently at 1,117 subscribers on the channel. We really appreciate all the support you guys are giving us recently on this channel. So if you're tuning into this video and you want to know more about the Philadelphia Eagles and stay up to date, better hit that subscribe button, comment down below. Want to know your thoughts on everything surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles as we get into this video. And the main person I want to talk about today is Nick Sirianni. And I really want to highlight what Nick Sirianni has done for the Philadelphia Eagles and what he hasn't been able to do for this organization. So when we, break it down from what he is as a coach and everything surrounding that. He came from the Indianapolis Colts. He was under Frank Reich and he was hired in 2021. He became the Eagles head coach and he's had widely amount of success and widely amount of criticism. It's very hot and cold when we're talking about Nick Sirianni. He went to 2 Super Bowls in 3 seasons. But when it comes to the success that he's had, it's unmatched. 2 Super Bowl appearances in 3 seasons, able to avenge your loss in 2022 and only in 2 years beating the team that you lost to stop a three-peat. That is going to be unmatched in NFL history, and Nick Sirianni was a very big caveat to the Eagles winning that Super Bowl in 2024. But the thing is, when you're going over the success and you're going over years of being in the NFL, you're seeing now that you cannot really win with a CEO head coach, especially in Philadelphia right now, because you saw what happened with Doug Peterson back in after the 2017 season, when it was 2018 when they hired Press Taylor, and it didn't really work out the best in Philadelphia. And Doug Peterson was very loyal to Press Taylor, and then he pretty much died on that sword of loyalty, and that led to Doug Peterson being fired after the 2020 season with that horrific 4-11-1 season. And this is kind of not going down that direction yet, but when we're looking at what Kevin Patullo has done for this Philadelphia Eagles team, it has not been well when looking at just the offensive performance. A little bit more into the numbers about this offensive performance. This was from Brandon Lee Gowden at Bleeding Green Nation, saying Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni deserves the most criticism for the teams and the offense's underperformance. Sirianni promoted Patullo to offensive coordinator after the 2024 season, and so far that decision looks like a disaster. Heading into the team's Week 14 matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium, Philadelphia ranks 24th in total offense, 22nd in passing, 22nd in rushing, and 18th in scoring. And this is something that is terrible when looking at this Philadelphia Eagles team and this offense. When we're looking at Nick Sirianni, he is not the individual play caller of this team. He is more of a CEO head coach. And I think that can work when you have a good system in place. But the matter of the fact is that the Eagles do not have a good offensive system in place. They had it with Kellen Moore last year. They had it with Shane Steichen in 2022. But we're seeing these years after the Super Bowl, we're seeing a very big drop off in offensive production. And that is not going to help your defense at all, because your defense is going to be unconfident. And that's what happened against the Chicago Bears, where they let up a lot of rushing yards because they weren't confident in their offense. And I think that is one of the biggest problems of this Philadelphia Eagles foundationally, is that they do not have a good offensive play caller in place. So if Nick Sirianni comes up there and says, we are not going to change the play calling, well, you just don't have a good offensive, system in place. We know what good offensive play callers are, and when we look a little bit more on that sort of, notion, when we look at it right here, these are primarily offensive play callers who are head coaches who call plays. And I think that's something that, we don't have in Philadelphia. When we're looking at just the success in just 2025, Ben Johnson, he comes into the Chicago Bears team who was terrible last year and revolutionized that offense, being a run first offense, really giving Caleb Williams kind of simple, like making the playbook very simple for him as he's developing. 9-3, number one in the NFC at this point. Beat the Eagles with the running game. We obviously know that. Sean McVay, he's been around here for years. He's 9-3. Obviously lost to the Carolina Panthers last night, but they have been consistent over this year in helping Matthew Stafford really reach the heights that he didn't have in Detroit. He's been doing it for years. He did it with Jared Goff, now did it with Matt Stafford. He is one of the best offensive play calling head coaches in NFL history. Then we look at Sean Payton. He did it in New Orleans with Drew Brees, now doing it with Bo Nix and Denver. They're squeaking out a lot of these games, but you look at the offense and you're not questioning that at all. They're, top 5 in scoring right now, 10-2 and number 1 in the AFC. And then when you look at Kyle Shanahan, obviously he's seventh in the NFC because he's in a loaded division with the Rams and the Seahawks, 9-4 right now. Obviously, the NFC is very loaded, but with all the injuries that San Francisco had, with Brock Purdy being out, with most of their offense being out, Kyle Shanahan able to be at a 9-4 record and really staying consistent as an offense, that is something that's very impressive from him and just what he has done over his career. So when you're looking at all of these, the Eagles don't have someone like that who can go in and call plays. And I think when you look at just this Eagles offense, it is a direct connection to Nick Sirianni. You obviously know that Kevin Patullo has gotten a lot of flack and he hasn't done his job and he hasn't done well this season in putting the Eagles in a good position on offense. But when we're looking at what this offense is, it is a direct connection to Nick Sirianni. And I think when you're looking at what he has been able to do over his career, he's heavily relied on those offensive play callers who come in, like Kellen Moore, like Shane Steichen, who leave in the offseason and then you don't have anything. It's like if you had Gordon Ramsay as one of your top chefs and he leaves and then you promote someone who's only cooked in a fast food restaurant. You're not going to get the same production. And not having a guy who can call plays, that is something that is very detrimental to this Eagles team and is going to happen every single year because if, at the end of the season, we'll see what this season concludes with. But if it doesn't get better and they go with a different offensive coordinator and he has success, it's going to be the same thing over and over again because then that offensive coordinator is going to leave and it's going to be the same thing over again. And I think when you're looking at just what the Eagles can do with this offense, it's going to have to be with Nick Sirianni and adapting and being more of a play caller be more of a play caller. He's got to get more into the offense and really try to, maybe just take some play calling duties just for like a drive or two and just try to get used to really developing an offense because that's going to be something that's going to help Jalen Hurts. You're not going to be very, it's not going to be detrimental to your team if an offensive coordinator then gets promoted to head coach. You know that you have a good system in place. And that's the thing that the Eagles don't have. And it's very flawed right now and it's very predictable. So he has to either adapt or die as a head coach. We saw with Dan Campbell what he's been able to do. Obviously, it hasn't been the biggest success, but he is at least adapting. He's adapting. He knows that the offensive coordinator wasn't doing well, so he adapted in the middle of the season and took over play calling. That's what Nick Sirianni has to do, or it is going to be the same story in 2023. And a little bit more on just Nick Sirianni and what hasn't really worked in these middle years of the Super Bowl, saying while the Eagles won the Super Bowl this past February, leaving them with little time to vet outside candidates, Sirianni has now hired a first-time play caller who wasn't ready for the role for the second time in 3 years. He hired and fired Brian Johnson in 2023, and he never helped either coach turn the offense around. Yes, Patullo calls the plays, but the two have worked together since Sirianni's days as the Colts offensive coordinator, and they think alike. So it's a direct extension for Nick Sirianni to Kevin Patullo. So you know that Kevin Patullo, he's calling the plays, but it is Nick Sirianni's system right now. When you're looking at, you may say, well, what happened in 2024? That was Kellen Moore. That was like Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni kind of going in and trying to develop a good offense. And they obviously had one of the best running back performances in NFL history. So it really helped the play calling having that last year. This year, the offensive line hasn't been great. The running scheme has not been great. The running game in all facets hasn't been great. So when we're looking at this team right now, they don't have the offensive scheme to really adapt and be successful over a head coaching tenure. And that's something that really we've seen over a lot of head coaches. I mentioned Sean McVay. I mentioned, Andy Reid, for example. Andy Reid being able to just have offensive coordinators kind of just be in the shadow because he's the one who is calling plays and taking the brunt of the games, every single year. He's been to 3 straight Super Bowls, been to multiple Super Bowls with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was with the Philadelphia Eagles. So he has experience there. And a lot of other coordinators you're seeing in all the NFC, a lot of these head coaches call plays, whether it's the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball. So Sirianni, coming from an offensive coordinator, if he's not able to adapt and call plays from Kevin Patullo or try to really just put in different plays to help this Eagles offense, then it's going to go the way that we don't want to see as fans. And it's going to be unfortunate to waste another year of prime A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Jalen Hurts in this loaded Eagles offense. But that's going to do it for another edition of Eagles Digest. Wanted to raise the question to you guys regarding Nick Sirianni. Does Nick Sirianni need to become a play caller for the Eagles to be a consistent winner? Comment your thoughts down below. Definitely think that there has to be some sort of change with Nick Sirianni to call these plays, because if he's not able to, then the Eagles are going to have to go into a different direction. And I know we don't want to get so, crazy about that, but they're going to have to go in a different direction to adapt to what the league is right now. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And as always, let's go Birds.